In this section, we will learn how to implement Flux pattern in React applications. We will use Redux framework. This is a simplest example of every piece needed for connecting Redux and React. To use Redux in your React application, you need to install Redux through the command prompt window using the command npm install save React Redux. This will take a couple of minutes for the installation to execute. So once this installation is complete, you can see my dependencies installed, React Redux and the Redux framework with its versions. Similarly, it will have in your package.json mentioned. Now, the next step would be we need to create certain folders and files for our actions, components, and reducers. Inside these certain folders, we are creating the corresponding files. So, action.js representing the actions, reducers.js representing the reducers, and components are used to mention what needs to be executed and what needs to be shown in the browser output. So these are the components. Now, actions. Actions are JavaScript objects that use type property to inform about the data that should be sent into the store. So here we are defining add to do action that will be used for adding new item to our list. This add to do function is an action creator that returns our action and sets an ID for every created item. So this is just a simple text box. So when I submit any text, it's going to display in my window here. For example, React, you can see. So whatever I keep typing in the text box, it just pushes and adds in the list. Like this. So for that, this is an action creator which sets the ID, and then my reducer file here. So while actions only trigger the changes in the application, the reducers specify those changes. So we are using a switch statement here to search for a add to do action. So the action here is add to do action, and we have a switch case with that name. So the reducer is a function that takes two parameters, which is state and the action. We will define the state to the action. So this is the function of the reducer. To do's is a function of the reducer where we take the parameters state and action to calculate and return the updated state. So in this function, first function to do, it will be used to create a new item, while this to do's function is used, that is this function will push that item to the list. And then here we are using combined reducers helper function, where we can add any new reducers that may be used in your application. So here it is just to do's. In the future, when it's a large project scale application, you may be using so many action creators, and you need reducers for that. So we can add any reducers that we use in the future. So this is a reducer file, and then in my index.js file, so I'm going to create my store. So the store is a place that holds the app state. It's very easy to create a store once you have reducers done. So we are passing the store property to this provider element, so which wraps our root component. We are passing store property to the provider element, so which wraps our root component. So the app.jsx is the root component of the whole application. So only the root component should be careful of using a Redux. So the important part here is to notice is the connect function, so which is used for connecting our root component app to the store. Here. So the function takes a select argument. So select function takes the state from the store and returns the visible to-dos that we can use in our components. Now this is how we define our Redux and maintain the state across the components. Now for other components, we need not consider the Redux concept here. It's just the JSX concept of rendering the HTML elements here. It's just the button and a text box, and to hold the props value, you just have a click event written here, and this item.js will just print whatever you submit. This React and Java, all these bullet points is just the item component, and item list is where it frames the item component in frame of a list. So one after the other it comes, it pushes to the array. So that is maintained as a prop value in to-dos, and that has been printed in such a way. So these are the other components. So when we execute our application, we'll be able to add items to our list here. So when I type my item and click submit, handle click will be called and the props will be added, my item to the props, and then that will be pushed to my to-dos, which will be framed as a repeated item in a list. So thus it's all about a simple example that defines a React Redux usage. This proves that the Redux architecture encourages a good React architecture. It implements many performance optimizations internally that allows components re-render only when it actually needs, not every time. and the state management is very efficient with a clean code. So that's all about React Redux, and it's used to manage the application state and building a efficient user interface.